Welcome back, good people. It's good to be here. I hope you appreciate my girl dad hat. My wife got it for me for Christmas among all my stocking stuffers. So I kind of dig it. It's a barstool hat. I'm a big barstool guy. But that's neither here nor there. Today we are going to talk about how to get suppliers for high ticket dropshipping, specifically in the United States in 2025. And something that I've gained from offering my supplier acquisition service over the last 6 months or so is actually a very almost an unintentional education on the entire landscape of high ticket drop shipping when it comes to suppliers. Because I've dealt with lots of different clients, between about 40 and 50 in this at this point, in lots of different types of niches, from industrial to lifestyle to fitness, all over the map. And so I've gained a very good and thorough perspective on just the nature of getting suppliers in 2025 for high ticket dropshipping. And the lessons that I've come away with, because as a reminder, I got my start in high ticket drop shipping back in 2020. And at the time, getting suppliers was pretty dang easy. I mean, really, you could do everything that you needed to do over email and get a good number of suppliers, because they just weren't quite as choosy back then. Um, it was just a much earlier, almost like before high ticket drop shipping even became a thing. Um, and luckily, high ticket drop shipping is still extremely underdiscovered. But that said, like, companies at this point have dealt with enough people like you, like me, that are trying to start these online businesses that don't have a physical location. And so some of them have kind of gotten to a point where they're more selective, or maybe they require you to have a physical location. Maybe they require you to have a minimum initial order to get set up as a dealer. None of this is uncommon. That said, with a lot of these objections, and I'll get into this more in a little bit here, having business history is only going to help you, even if it's a no today. It doesn't mean it's necessarily a no tomorrow. And oftentimes it's just a matter of talking to the right person and having a good, convincing conversation with them. And again, it's a lot easier to do that once you have some business history underneath your belt. So let's assume that you have never done high ticket dropshipping before. You have no business history, because for me it's a lot easier to get suppliers for my own businesses and for other people's businesses, because I can leverage my own personal experience for the last half decade in high ticket dropshipping. I can speak their language. I know what questions they're going to ask. I know what questions to ask them, and I immediately come off as a trustworthy potential dealer to partner with them, because I've been around the block, and it's easy for them to tell that. And on top of that, I'll just toot my own horn here. I am a good communicator. So if you're not a good communicator, and you don't have any experience in this, I encourage you to check out my supplier acquisition service in the link below. But let's say you're going to do it on your own. And let's say you have no experience in this. This is your first high ticket dropshipping business. And let's assume you're going to do this in the United States, although, a lot of these companies operate similarly all over the world. Let's just assume the US for sake of conversation. Is it possible to get suppliers just over email, or just filling out their forms on their websites? The answer is yes. Now, that said, it's going to be a lot harder. Well, let me say this. You're going to get a lot lower response rate from only doing that than you will from just calling someone and getting a yes or no on the phone. And frankly, over the phone, it's a lot easier to get a yes, as long as you're a good communicator and you know what you're talking about, than it is to necessarily do so over email. Because over email, anybody can use ChatGPT to type out a well-written message. Anyone can make a semi-decent looking website these days. But there's an element of actually being able to put a voice to a name when you call versus emailing. So I'll back up to the initial question. Can you get suppliers by just emailing? Yes, you can. you're just not going to get as many as you will by calling. And frankly, the ones that you call and get suppliers from there where you wouldn't have just from emailing, oftentimes those are the better suppliers that are harder to get in the door with, that are going to have fewer dealers, and they're going to be way less competitive when you're actually advertising their products. Um, so, kind of going back to what I was alluding to earlier, suppliers are more selective these days. That I don't think that's unique to high ticket drop shipping. I think that's pretty much the nature of e-commerce going into 2025 and beyond. And I think it's going to be ebbs and flows. You know, certain companies want to expand their dealer networks at certain times. Certain companies, want to put a hold on how many dealers they have representing them online, because from their perspective, sometimes it might just be a case of they only want to work with brick and mortar locations. Say you're dealing with products that require installation or frequent servicing, like air compressors or water pumps. Some companies are just going to either require or prefer their distributors or dealers to have a physical location where they can actually service these parts or house inventory themselves. My recommendation as a potential response to this, if that's what they tell you over the phone or over email, is ask if they have any third-party distributors that you might be able to work through. I've worked through many distributors in my time. A lot of the clients that I'm getting suppliers for, depending on the industry, are having me work through third-party distributors with actually really, really good margins. So there's it's kind of a double-edged sword when it comes to working with third-party distributors. For one thing, the one con is you're not working directly with the manufacturer, so there's kind of a buffer between where the product is actually built, where it's going to, i.e., your distributor, and then when it's going to the client. So sometimes it can lead to lead times, and just from a pricing standpoint, every company in the mix here has to make money somehow. So your margins are just naturally going to be a little bit lower when you're working through a distributor than if you're working direct with the manufacturer. But that said, just in the last week, I've gotten distributor agreements for some clients with margins in the 40 to 50% range. Again, this is more dependent on the industry and on the actual manufacturers than it is just the nature of working through a distributor. One really good thing about working through a distributor is oftentimes they carry a multitude of brands that you just instantly get access to versus just the initial manufacturer that you reached out about. So it goes from, reaching out about one brand and, getting access to, 10 or 100 different products under that brand to, thousands under multiple different brands. So again, it's a double-edged sword. There's pros and cons to every piece of that. But yeah, as far as if someone says they require a physical location, they require you to house inventory, ask them if they can allow you to work through a third-party distributor. And then if the answer is no, then you're kind of just SOL at that point. But again, once you have some business history, some revenue to talk about, 6 months to a year from now, go back to them and just say, hey, this is what I've done in the meantime. Wanted to revisit this conversation and see if you might be able to reconsider, just given the level of business that we're doing and the customers that we're serving. On top of that, common objections. So need a physical location. We're not currently expanding our dealer network. If they say they're not currently expanding our dealer network, there's not a whole lot that I've come up with as far as a good, quick response to that. It's kind of hard. You can't tell them, oh, well, yeah, actually, you are looking to expand your dealer network. Like, no, it's not your choice. That's kind of their call. So, in those types of situations, you kind of just have to check back in down the line. Those are really the two most common objections I get is A, we're not expanding our dealer network. B, we only work with dealers that have a physical location or distributors that have a physical location that can either service products or can house inventory or do both. So, all that said, again, if you are someone that is building a high ticket dropshipping business or is about to begin building a high ticket dropshipping business, at least for me when I was getting started, the the whole getting dealers thing was the most daunting piece of this. If you're someone that maybe you're not a confident communicator, maybe that's just not your particular skill set, and maybe you excel in other places, but you know you want to build this business. I highly recommend checking out the business or my service in the link below. I've had a lot of success doing this with quite a few clients at this point. And like I said, this is what I do. I've done this for 5 years now. I know the language of high ticket drop shipping. I talk with dealers on a daily basis, or with suppliers rather, on a daily basis. So if that would be of value to you, I recommend checking it out below. Aside from that, I obviously have my course. I'm currently building High Ticket Masterclass 2.0. And in the meantime, I think that's going to come out in mid to late January. In the meantime, if you buy my current course at its current price point, you will be automatically grandfathered in to High Ticket Masterclass 2.0, which is going to be quite a bit more expensive, just because it's more valuable material, it's more up to date, and there's going to be even more material in the course. So I'll put the link to that in the description below. And lastly, my Google Ads service. If you are already operating a business, you're already running Google Ads, or are equipped or ready to start running Google Ads, and you want someone with experience to do this, I don't charge a monthly fee. All I charge is a percentage of your revenue. So if you're interested in that, I will put that in the description below as well. But until next time, have a happy new year and happy high ticket drop shipping in 2025.